What is up, guys? This is the Casual Wrestling Community Show. I am one of your hosts, the Notorious NerdyD, alongside my co-host of the show, Milwaukee Mike. Tonight, we are going to dissect all of the happenings in pro wrestling, including our biggest takeaways from Raw and Wrestlemania. We will talk about Mike's experience being at Wrestlemania Live, and we'll do another fun blind ranking, this time of the Wrestlemania matches now that they've already happened. But first, 35 minutes on the clock. Mike, let's break it down for all of the casuals out there.
Hey, you better bring it if we debating going toe to toe. No holding back, I'm speaking the facts. Let me introduce you to the dopest show. NerdyD and Milwaukee Mike, bringing the energy. If you a fan of wrestling, and especially WWE, this is the Casual Wrestling Show. Casual Wrestling Show. We got opinions, we letting them know. Casual Wrestling Show. Hey, ain't no holding back.
So we're gonna start off the show a little differently. Normally we start with the news, but you were boots on the ground. You were there. You got to witness possibly the greatest WrestleMania of all time. So I just want to open the floor right off the bat, and I want to start with you. Just kind of give me a general, put me in the seats there. Let me know how it felt, and then I'll have a couple follow-up questions I'm gonna hit you with after you let us know.
Yeah, man. So first of all, if you haven't been to a WrestleMania, I highly recommend, by the time you die, at least get to one, especially if you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Because when you get boots on the ground and you start to see the excitement and you see all the signs up on the streets and you see all the fans and the T-shirts and the memorabilia walking around, the belts, it's something that you'll never experience before in your life. So right off the bat, you can just feel the excitement, right? Around the convention center where Mania World was, you seeing all these people. There's guys in cars bumping Roman Reigns music, holding their ones out the car window. There was one guy that literally stopped in the middle of the street, got out of his car with a belt, and it's just telling him to acknowledge. It was awesome, man. But one thing I want to hit on was the comments that I've seen of the crowd energy. And as somebody that was there, I will say that Saturday absolutely sucked. The weather was cold, and I don't think people really understand. The wind was crazy. Like, it didn't help anything.
So that's the first question I have for you was, everybody's like, the big thing I've seen everybody, it's only 40 degrees, but it's an open air stadium and it looked windy. Like, even I think R-Truth talked about how windy it was. So that creates an uncomfortableness.
Yeah, so we're literally just freezing. The wind's not helping. So I'm sure the wind is also taking the crowd sound out of the stadium.
Definitely.
It was loud though. Like, as cold as we were, it was loud. So you wonder why the WWE keeps going to the Northeast or these open air stadiums in April where it's clearly going to still be cold. But nonetheless, Saturday night was very much as fun as you could expect it to be. I think the matches all hit. As we get, I think we're gonna talk about actual Mania, later in the show. There's maybe like one or two matches on both nights combined that I think, but overall, man, being there, especially Sunday, I mean, to begin the night the way it did and to end it how it did was just unbelievable. And the emotion in the crowd. I mean, look, you really understand how much of an impact pro wrestling can have on somebody when you're there Sunday night and you're seeing people hugging and jumping and crying and cheering. It was fun to be there, man. I was with my brother and the Undertaker's gong hit and the lights go out. And I wasn't a 32-year-old man in that moment. I became a teenager, and it was cool to be with my brother in that moment. It was overall, I would say, for me, easily one of the better Manias because of the list of stars that were in this Mania, right? I'm sure that, the newcomers coming up and who's, going to be popular 5 years from now will put on great shows. But the totality of the stardom that was in this card or showed up as a surprise, I don't think that will ever be topped again.
I'm with you. So one of the questions I have for you was, I went back and watched the press conference and some of the TikTok stuff, what was the deal with the lights? Because there was a whole turn off the lights chant that happened.
Bro. So I was in the upper deck. Yeah. And this was more so Sunday than Saturday.
So it's a Sunday thing.
It's a Sunday thing. They got lights on top of the canopy of the ring that are shining in the crowd, and then they have lights that were on the stadium on the sides. These lights were blaring straight into the upper deck. So yeah, there was a lot of chanting, turn the lights off, F the lights,
Did they turn them off?
They did listen.
Okay, so they went off. So then that got a big pop, I'm sure.
It got a great big pop. But yeah, there was a light issue at first, but they listened to the crowd.
They cleared it. Yeah. So I never saw the lights go off. I just saw the TikToks where like the please turn the lights off. That's crazy. But that's what WrestleMania is. That's what you're talking about when you talk about like there is no experience. We've been to NFL games. We've been to NBA games. And those are small moments that happen in a city. And maybe the NBA finals and like Super Bowl. I've never been to a Super Bowl. I've been to NBA finals. Those are close. But there's nothing like when WrestleMania takes over a city. Because you're right. Like, I remember going to New York and you couldn't go anywhere where it wasn't WrestleMania people. You go to the Wax Museum, it's WrestleMania people. You go to this museum, that's all it is. So I can only imagine that like this was the one. And the 2-night ones are even crazier than the single night ones. But the other question I have for you was just in general, could you get a feeling that having been to previous WrestleManias, was there kind of the feeling that like this was a Triple H event? Did it feel different, just like an aura of being around? You know what I'm saying? Just different. Like, was there just something different about it?
I'm great. I'm glad you asked that because the whole weekend just walking around or being in the stadium, you forgot about Vince McMahon.
That's like crazy.
They made it very clear that they were going to make sure that this was known as Triple H's WrestleMania. Whether you were at Mania World, whether you were live at the show, the fans, I mean, it was very apparent that this is a new era. And I think the way that they produced the shows just kicked the whole thing off. And again, hats off to Triple H because I think he put on a hell of a show. And we'll get to it later in the show. But yeah, there was definitely a sense that this was Triple H's baby.
And the only last question I had was you being there live. Like when that last main event ends, we get to see what happens with Cody Rhodes. But like, did you have eyes on Roman Reigns? Like, how did he exit? What was his exit like? Because like, that's crazy. That's the end of 4 years. His life is completely different starting, yesterday.
Yeah. So he had a very slow strut up the ramp there, and I did keep my eyes on him. I was trying to go back and forth, but very slow walk. He managed to put his hair up in a bun on the way up, and there's a very long embrace with Paul Heyman at the top. And I think, and I can't speak for Roman, but I think the long walk and the embrace was kind of just like, that was awesome. And, that's the vibe I got. That it was kind of more like we just did something great.
Yeah, and like I led into this huge moment. I carried this, and now something new is born. That's the vibe I got from seeing some of the videos online.
Yeah, and again, we'll hit on it, but I think overall this is a very emotional WrestleMania for a lot of the talent.
All right, so then let's move on. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw, because I will tell you, last year's Monday Night Raw post WrestleMania was a letdown for me. Because this is always my favorite show, even more than WrestleMania. This is the one that feels like the epitome of wrestling. It's nuts. People are going wild. Anything can happen. So we're coming off of Monday Night Raw. It's kind of fresh in our heads. My biggest takeaway this week from Monday Night Raw is that for a show that had 20,000 people in the stands, completely jam-packed, Triple H has wrestling feeling intimate. He has me feeling like it's just me and what's on TV. There's something, I don't know if it's the way he's lighting the crowd, And I know, like, I think they're experimenting because the crowd's not blue and red anymore. You see people,
Right.
you see faces. You know, I think the smaller entrance thing, I don't know if that's permanent. I don't know if they're just doing that for the bigger stage. I kind of like it. I like the way he explained it in the press conference. Look, we're here to put as many people in these stadiums as we can. And I think WWE is becoming the cool thing. They don't need the lights. They don't need the fireworks anymore. Triple H is just booking us into kind of the greatest period of wrestling we've ever seen. It's not spectacular, but that small entrance is it's kind of intimate, and the entrances still look kind of epic. They do a good job with lights and smoke and lasers. I loved, coming out of Monday Night Raw, I love some of the chances they take with like cameras now and camera angles. We got that one shot that followed Rhea Ripley into the back, where then she was attacked by Liv Morgan, which led into Dominic grabbing the camera, pushing it, and the cameraman transitions out of that push, walks through a door into the stadium, and there's action already going on in the stadium, which triggers something in my head that goes, this is a real event. This isn't a stage show anymore. We're not going from produce segment to produce segment to produce segment. There's a show going on in the arena while we're watching something backstage, and now we get to be a part of Indy Hartwell in the ring. And I thought, like, these little subtle things that Triple H talked about in his press conference, that they're going to change the feel of wrestling, it definitely, Monday Night Raw felt like a whole new show to me. It was a whole different thing I was watching, from the lights to the camera angles. Wrestling to me, Mike, it feels cool again. Like, it feels like I feel okay to openly like tell people I'm a wrestling fan again. Instead, the Rock's back, and he may take time off, but you can clearly see that he wants to come back. You can clearly see in the promo he cut, he wasn't ready to leave. He had so much fun, and it almost feels like this movie is pulling him away from the stories he really wants to tell now. Same with John Cena. We heard all week running up to WrestleMania that John Cena was going to have to be limited. Whatever he did was going to have to be extremely limited. He took bumps. He took a bump from from The Rock. He took bumps in his match with the Judgment Day. So it's obvious he wants to be a part. Now he's on McAfee talking about, I got one more good run in me. What it felt like to me, Mike, on Monday Night Raw, all the egos are gone. Yeah. Everybody's kind of, there's like been just a deep exhale from everybody. And I know I saw in the Discord, you said you're going to talk about Seth Rollins in a little bit, which I'm excited to hear. But I think Seth is kind of the biggest leader of that. It feels like nobody's protected anymore. We don't have to. Right. It's okay for Seth Rollins to lose. That's okay. We can champion that, and we can appreciate that he took 2 losses at WrestleMania in order to usher in that Damian Priest's time has now come, that CM Punk has become kind of one of the guys. It just feels like everybody's getting along. It feels like a cohesive story. It, to me, doesn't feel like all these broken up segments. We have new champions. We have a new look. We're coming up quickly on a draft. It just really, I don't think they're just saying it. Because I saw a couple people go, they're trying to beat home this Triple H thing so that we forget about Vince McMahon. Sure, that's part of the plan, but I also think what we're about to experience, I don't think WrestleMania is going to be an anomaly of this was great, now wrestling as usual. I think Backlash will be good. I think Money in the Bank's going to be, I think we're in for the next 5 years. As long as Triple H is steering this ship, I think it's going to be a fun ride. That's what I took away from Monday Night Raw. How about you?
Yeah, I'm actually on the same page with you. I think for me, the feel of Monday Night Raw, right? Forgetting that it's actually 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right. That's a huge step in the right direction. The camera and the production of the show, I think that's also something that you have to take it. I also agree with you with the cohesion of the talent. It feels like everybody is wanting to do their best, not just for themselves, but they know if I go out here and kill it, hey, this thing's gonna keep going on, on the uptick, and we're gonna see even a lot more that benefits us. It's just, for me, this new we've seen splashes before Mania as well.
Oh yeah,
but it feels to me like the direction that they're trying to go, especially going into this Netflix deal, it almost feels like episodic television, right?
Yes, yes, 100%.
It feels like you're watching a show instead of segment commercial. Commercial. It's, hey, we got this going on. but what's going on in the other room?
Yes.
Or what's going on over here? And it feels like, and it flows, the flow of things as well. Like, I feel like it all is just coming together, and it's making for a great watch, which is very much enjoyable, especially for Monday Night Raw being that 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that, again, I feel like as long as Triple H is at the helm, it'll only get better and easier on our eyes and our minds. And it's just something that I think we all just have to sit back and enjoy.
And I want to double down on what we're saying here. Do you not think that that's kind of, it feels to me like Triple H comes in and he knows exactly what the show's going to be. Whereas we always heard these stories about Vince showing up and going, change everything at the last minute. And how can you possibly have, like you said, a cohesive television show if you show up and start changing story arcs? It feels like you said, a produced thing from start to finish where it just kind of flows and stories kind of lead into other stories. And you just like, you're on a ride almost, a roller coaster. And Triple H does that so well of taking us up and then letting us come down energy wise and then bringing us back up. I'm with you. So then let's talk about our stock then, because WrestleMania, it has the ability to affect everybody in crazy ways. So I want to hear from you on the Milwaukee Mike stock market. Whose stock is trending right now?
I got to be honest with you. I got to eat some humble pie this week.
She's not going 3 for 3?
No, man. I think Liv Morgan, her stock rose a little bit yesterday with the chair shot and the beatdown. I'm one to eat humble pie when I got to eat it, and I think she's not beating Rhea Ripley, right?
Yeah.
But I think they could probably tell a pretty good story.
You got to make the most of your moment.
I think this is gonna help Liv, and I don't know when it's gonna happen. I'm assuming Backlash probably, but I think for me this week, humble pie eaten, Liv Morgan stock rules.
I don't think that's humble pie though, because I think you were right. I think the stock was falling, but I think it was by design. It was forget about Liv. Here she is now. She's back involved, and I think it touches on what we said earlier in the fact that like egos are gone. Liv's not butthurt that she wasn't at WrestleMania. She's going to pick up right where she needs to be post-WrestleMania. And like you said, she's not beating Rhea Ripley, but you can improve your stock just by having a very good, story segment with them. My stock rising, this is generic and I don't really give a shit. It's Triple H. There were rumblings. We heard people on Discord and stuff talking about before WrestleMania that he was getting fired. Like dipshits from the dirt sheets were talking about, this is it. They're going to fire him. He's going to get to do WrestleMania. Then he's done. He's part of this big thing going on. And instead, WrestleMania turned into a celebration of Triple H. You had Paul Heyman celebrating him. You had wrestlers celebrating him. You had The Rock celebrating him. You had Cody celebrating him. It literally became more of a Triple H show even than a Cody Rhodes show at the end of the day. And I think that what Triple H has done with WrestleMania weekend in Philadelphia is, if there was any question, I don't think there was question from guys like me and you, but there are still people on the internet who wanted to play this who's number one argument. There's a top of a pyramid, and that's WWE. There's a middle of a pyramid, that's WWE. There's a bottom of a pyramid, that's WWE. AEW is somewhere buried underneath the sand. They're not in the same stratosphere. They're not in the same universe. And what comes with that is with Triple H's stock rising, the exodus is going to begin, Mike. We're going to see MJF leave AEW. He can't, there's no way. He is too big of a star now to not be in the star company. You're going to see people like Britt Baker leave AEW. Adam Cole is sitting there going, how do I get out of my contract? Triple H is my guy. I'm a Triple H guy. How do I get back to that? Because he's putting guys like Sami Zayn over. These guys who've been patient, I need to be back over there now instead of wrestling in front of 300 people a week. I think that what Triple H did, and rightfully so, raised his stock, but he also put a fork in Tony Khan. It's done. There is no argument to be made anymore. You said it. I love the way you say it. AEW is an alternative, but now WWE's kind of taking that real estate and like, we're the cool company now. We got the cool, COO or whatever they call him. That's what I believe. So whose stock is falling then to you?
My stock this week falling, especially after Mania, is Karrion Kross. What are we doing with this
Interesting.
guy?
True.
What are we doing with them? I mean, we start this whole new faction. They're in a feud with I guess what are they called? The Pride. Since I think October, and the needle hasn't moved on Karrion Kross at all. And then you go into WrestleMania and it's like you take another L. I mean, all this dude does is take L's, and then he goes on social media and he cuts these promos like, just wait, I made Bobby Lashley relevant. And it's like, bro, you keep losing. Like, no one has interest in you anymore. I think for me personally, and I don't know what his contract looks like or what the details of that is, but yeah, I think he just needs to go away, man. I think he needs to try new pastures and start some kind of a new character or something. Because for us as WWE fans, I would assume, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I'd assume that we're kind of just done with this dude at this point. Yeah,
I'm with you on that. I don't like. He's a guy who feels like it's main event or bust for him. He doesn't know how to be a mid-card guy. You build this spooky kind of aura in this faction, and that doesn't work in the mid-card because every time you get beat, like you said, he goes on social media and he's almost claiming like that was the plan. The plan was to go get my ass whipped and make this guy relevant, and your time is up, and look at all the chaos I'm causing. But it doesn't read that way when he's on screen. So my stock dropping, and you're going to big up Seth Rollins in a little bit, but I'm going to say I think it's Seth Rollins' stock falling. And this is not meant to be a negative stock falling. I think this is just the natural progression of professional wrestling. You take 2 L's at WrestleMania, one to The Rock and Roman, one to Drew McIntyre, and then clearly it's obvious very quickly you're not getting a rematch. You're getting time off. Seth's probably got time to heal and just let some emotion out. Well deserved at this point in time. But I think by default, when you go away, your stock drops. And to me, that's a good thing. I think that the stock of Seth Rollins had become stale to begin with. He had gone as high as he could take this weird ass character he had. He had hit the ceiling. He couldn't go. WrestleMania was the pinnacle of the weird Seth Rollins with the dresses and the big flowers on the side. I'm completely fine with that stock dropping. Him and Becky need to take a vacation. Take some time off. It's well-deserved. You guys were instrumental in getting us to this point. We will not forget. We appreciate. Take your time off and go fix your character. Not fix it, change your character. Come back refreshed. Evolve. Give us what the next version of Seth Rollins is. And I don't want it to be in a dress. I don't want it to have giant flowers. I want to see what you have next. So for that reason, I think that's the only reason I'm saying stock falling, is because I think he literally tapped out as high as he could go. And now it's time to just naturally let that dive and come back, and he can skyrocket again. That's the way I see that. All right, Mike, it is time for Hot Mike. I don't know what you have prepared. Whatever you want to do, you let me know.
Yeah, so I think this is probably where I'll hit on the Seth Rollins topic. And it's not like I'm not going to go crazy and start berating anything. But I think just being amongst the aura of WrestleMania this weekend and seeing what Seth Rollins has done and kind of stepping back and really thinking about this last year more in particular, he was kind of as annoying as he got, he was definitely a workhorse. And I think at Mania, and this is just speculation, I don't think he was fully healed. I think I think his knee was just hanging on by a thread, as well as his back, and I think he just let it all kind of just fall through at WrestleMania, because the way that he was limping backstage, back up the ramp, and he's getting carried up by his peers, and he was very emotional. I've seen videos of up close emotion, but you can also tell, being there live.
Yeah.
This means something to him, man. And as much as I got on him a couple weeks ago, I got to kind of tip my cap and give my respect to him, because to essentially give up your whole WrestleMania weekend for Cody Rhodes, which is essentially what he did. I respect that. And, he said he was going to be Cody Rhodes' shield. And he was. He took that last chair shot. That was kind of the shield.
Yeah.
And it propelled him to victory. And, seeing him tell Drew that he deserves it, and seeing his emotion, seeing Cody win, you could just tell that he really cares about this business. And for me, I would like to see a kind of a character recharge and a refresh. But I think for me, my respect for him overall rose over the weekend, because it's not often that you see guys really invest so much of themselves into this business where it's not just their ego taking over and it's just me, me, me. You could tell that this whole last year was kind of for the company, and, you know, in the direction of Triple H, I think that was needed, and it's paying off now, I think. So I think that's where I'm at this week.
So I want to touch on that, because I think that's where, as wrestling fans, we have to be able to separate out like the casual side of us who gets invested in the character. I don't like Seth Rollins' character. I don't like it. Right. But I can separate myself from not liking the character and understanding how instrumental he is to the business. I mean, I've always said, when you go down the checklist of someone who has everything, in my opinion, it's Kevin Owens and it's Seth Rollins. That's my 1A and 1B. When you talk about everything, promo, ability to wrestle, Cody's right there under them. I still don't think Cody's on that level, but that's just my opinion. But I'm with you. I think what won't be talked about enough is, and I'm glad you talked about it, is in order for Triple H to transition into what this new WWE is going to look like, this kind of egoless WWE, you have to have that guy. You have to have that one guy who was willing to fall on the sword at WrestleMania, who deserved every moment. That should have been him, right? That he probably should have been the guy to end the streak. Let's be real honest. Yeah. Just out of like respect to what he's done for the company for the last 5 or 6 years, that should have been him. But he put it all to the side, and he's built something bigger. There's a legacy being built here, and I don't think we're done with Seth Rollins. He comes back, he rebuilds, and this thing is going to be a machine. When we finally get back around to that moment, because we're going to find it where we go Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, it's going to be big. I don't get the vibes that Roman Reigns is done. I think we're gonna get another Roman Reigns Seth Rollins feud, and when that streak's not on the line, that's gonna be fun, because then it is just whatever happens. And Seth has always been the guy who had Roman's number. I think The Rock wants back in. I think Cena wants back in. I think that the respect has to be given to Seth Rollins for, like you said, I don't think he was healthy, and I forgot about that. I forgot that, he sells it so well that I never thought about the fact that he knew how big this moment was, and that it called for to be bigger. Like, I was sitting here thinking, did he get hurt? Yeah, no, you're right. He was just hurt. Yeah. He was just already hurt, and that was just all of that emotion pouring out at the end led to, I mean, honestly, MVP of the weekend, because, Cody wins the title. It's easy to be that guy. It's easy to be the main guy, and everybody cheers and loves you. The Rock came in. He did his one-off thing. It's easy to be that guy. But to be the guy who put the work in and Drew McIntyre, I'm going to put in this situation too, because the last 6 months, Drew McIntyre put a lot of work in, and to eat humble, to be humbled by having another cash-in happen on you, and understand that that's just building a bigger story. Him and Seth have to be appreciated for putting their egos aside and going, there's something bigger at play here. So I like that. I do like that. Even though I had Seth's stock dropping, that's the casual fan in me. Whereas I can take that hat off and just put on the sports fan and go, oh no, I understand what he's doing for the team.
Hell yeah.
All right, so Mike, usually here we touch on SmackDown, but there's absolutely no point in doing that. I want to get your biggest takeaway from WrestleMania just in general. I know so much happened. You can touch on different matches, but just what were the biggest takeaways having been there?
Yeah, so I think for me, my biggest takeaways would be that there were 2 matches in particular that I think could have been left off the card. And you could tell that Triple H made an effort to kind of make it make sense, right? The Rey Mysterio tag match. I don't think that needed to be on the card in particular, but you've seen the Kelsey interaction. Yeah. And you tried to make it make sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's you could see, instead of just giving some like stupid like, slot where, hey, let's get Kelsey involved. It was, hey, let's get him involved with this match. So now we can intertwine. Now the match kind of makes a little more sense. It doesn't feel like a kind of a filler, even though, it still kind of was.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So there's that match. And then on night 2, I think the street fight. How do you enhance that? Oh, we get Snoop Dogg out there. We get Bully Ray as a special guest referee. Now it's kind of a little bit more entertaining than what it probably would have been, right? So I think that's my first takeaway. My second takeaway is, I think Triple H is kind of smart showing off here. There were actually 2 stories that ended on Sunday night. And the first one was Cody's story, obviously.
Okay.
The second one was Roman hitting Seth in the back with the chair.
True.
As Seth hit Roman
Full
in the
circle.
back with the chair. It's a full circle moment. There's 2 stories that ended. I think there was that. And then lastly, my other takeaway, which I kind of hit on earlier, was I don't know that you'll ever make a WrestleMania bigger than this one, because the names that were on this card, the matches that were on this card, no knock on the talent coming up or what the next couple WrestleManias may look like, but Cena, Undertaker, The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Gunther, Bobby Lashley, Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch. I mean, the list of names on this card, I don't know that you'll ever really be able to top WrestleMania 4. Now, I'm saying that, and we said that like last year as well.
Yeah, I know.
But if it does get topped, I don't know that there'll be ever a main event that tops what we see on Sunday. I think that's going to be the greatest main event maybe of all time. But so I would say those would be my takeaways.
So I think the analogy that we used on the show all last couple weeks leading up, the Avengers, we nailed it. That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like Avengers Endgame Part 2. This was the end of a story, and we're beginning a new story. And I think you're right that all of the stars have to align for that ever to happen again. For it to ever happen again, there has to be so much happen. You got to have a guy with a streak. You have to have all of these names and these passing of the guard, and it lined up so beautifully. Now, I'm with you. There's a couple matches on that card that I think were, I don't want to say not of WrestleMania quality, because I want to flip it around and say, I think that my biggest takeaway from WrestleMania is the importance of structuring an event with peaks and valleys. And something that I've criticized AEW so much is that when I watch AEW, I feel like the main event's in the middle of the night and then we end with like something I've never seen before. This felt like Triple H sat down before WrestleMania and literally just for probably 3 nights put this together, envisioned it, and looked. And while I agree with you 100%, I didn't love the Rey Mysterio and LWO Legado, but it makes sense. Like coming out of the energy of one part, at some point the energy is going to drop. And so in that drop, bringing out Kelsey, it's kind of that feel good. And so he did such a good job of making the highs seem so high. Like the peaks of this WrestleMania feel like we'll never experience that again. And that's the main event of night 2. That's the main event of night 1. That's the first match of night 2. Those peaks felt like, holy shit, everything. And Triple H has kind of done this. This has been his thing since he brought CM Punk back. It just felt like everything you knew we'd want, he gave us. But he did it in a way that didn't feel like, okay, I'm not going to really put thought into it. It just all flowed so well. I think when you look at the totality of this event, and you put this up against other events, I don't know that it was necessarily match for match one of the greatest WrestleManias I've ever seen. But the way it was paced out, and like you said, the star power just made it just, I didn't want the nights to end. Where normally in a WrestleMania, I get to the end and I'm like, all right, I'm tired. This has been good. But I'm like, holy shit, we're in the main event already? Where did this all go? I want more, because it crescendoed. It kept getting better. And yeah, Rhea and Becky start off. I don't think that's the best women's match I've ever seen. I think that Rhea and Charlotte was better last year, but placing it first on the card and the energy that they brought to that match made more sense than where Rhea and Charlotte were last year was like second to last on the card or something like that. Yeah. It's the importance of structuring an event, especially 2 nights with the amount of matches you have, that can go so bad. I'm with you. Final Testament and the Pride, kind of a shit show. But in Philadelphia, that kind of makes sense, right? Like, you got to bring Bubba Ray out, which gets the pop. You got to have Snoop Dogg, which, that he was great. So while match for match, you can pull that out of context and go, what the hell was that? But in terms of the event altogether, you have to have that moment. You have to have that valley, and Triple H did such a good job of keeping the valleys from dipping into like, all right, this is where I go take a bathroom break. This is where I go get a drink. If I was there, I don't think I'd have ever got out of my seat because you're just kind of like, what's next? What are we doing next? What is the next big moment? From like the tag team ladder match, that hitting so many good beats. I absolutely love that they did not make a big deal out of splitting the tag team titles. It just kind of organically happened, and now we're where we wanted to be. But they didn't turn it into this, well, there's a chance and the buildup. It just happened, and we all go, oh, that was, I guess I didn't think that was a possibility. That's how we get to having 2 different sets of champions. So that, to me, the pacing, the structure, that's what I came out of WrestleMania most excited about. Just overall, I think that easily, I'll tell you, I think that was the most exciting WrestleMania I've ever witnessed. From, like you said, you'll never have The Undertaker again. That had to come together. And I think we both assumed that was Austin and something happened, right? I mean, do you think so? Because they did the foreshadowing with the van and stuff, and it feels to me like The Rock and Stone Cold made more sense at some point. I'm guessing something didn't come together.
Yeah, I mean, but it is what it is. I mean, when that gong hit, man.
No. Hold on. Now I'm with you. It is what it is, and I think it was better.
Yeah,
I don't think it gets any better than the lights shutting off and the gong hitting. I think it was meant to be Stone Cold, but when you pivot and you audible, and I go, I think that's the best way that could have ended. Because then they can spin it as Undertaker's the balance. He's always been the balance. He's always been the kind of the evil neutral. Right. And so for him to be like, this is going to end the way it ends, not with the final boss, I love it. Just everything about it, every pacing, every beat was absolutely perfect to me. And I'll say most exciting WrestleMania of all time. I don't know if I'll say it's the greatest WrestleMania of all time. That's the way I'll leave that.
And one quick thing on the Undertaker part. I think we have to remember that Roman beat Undertaker at a previous WrestleMania.
That's exactly right.
So it did make sense. It did make sense.
That does make sense. All right, Mike, let's do a blind ranking of the matches. We did it, what we were most excited for. Now let's do it based on what we saw in person. Only 5 choices. We're not doing any of this. We're not giving ourselves a buffer. 5 choices. I'm spinning the wheel. First match we're ranking here. The United States title match. Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. One that we actually didn't talk about any tonight.
Yeah.
Because, it was awesome, but just... that's kind of how the night was. There were so many big moments. I'm going to go 4.
That's where I was going.
All right.
I think 4. I think that's solid.
Both going 4 there.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Spinning again here. The IC title match. Sami Zayn versus Gunther.
I really enjoyed that match.
I did too.
I really did. I'm going to put that. I'm going to go 3. I'm going 2. Okay. I'm not mad at that.
I'm afraid we're not going to get much better than that. We're gonna get something bad here in a minute. It can't just go good. All right, Damage Control versus Bianca, Jade, and Naomi.
That'll be my 5.
Same here. That was just a Jade Cargill moment.
Showcase.
It was just that's what it was.
Yep.
All right, we're both going 5 there. Although dangerous, but
because
there's one match that could pop up here that I'm nervous about.
Oh man.
All right, so we got Santos, Dom, and Mysterio and Andrade, which was what I was a little fearful for. I'm gonna put that 3 then.
I guess is that my 2 then?
You have 2 and 1.
2. Yeah, it's got. God, this shit happened last week too, man. Fuck.
You're gonna have to develop a strategy. You gotta leave some room at the top. But now we're in trouble, Mike.
We are in trouble.
We both have the number 1 spot open. Whatever comes up on this wheel,
this cannot be
our favorite match.
Lashley.
It's the tag team ladder match.
It's not. It was. That was a good match. I enjoyed that match.
In terms of what popped up on here, I think I'm okay with this. I have tag ladder, IC title, Santos. I wish the US title was higher now. And the Jade Cargill match. You have tag ladder number 1, Santos 2, IC title 3, US title 4, and Jade Cargill's match 5.
Oh God.
Nothing good popped up there.
Without blind ranking.
Okay. Okay, ranking just what? The top 5?
Yeah. So I think my 5, I'd go 1, obviously Cody versus Roman.
Yeah.
2, the tag match between The Rock.
So far, we're together.
3, I'd go the IC title match.
3, I think I'd go. I know a lot of people didn't love it, but I liked the Drew and Seth finisher fest. I thought it was fun. Yeah. I thought it was fun.
So that would be my 4, I think.
Okay.
That would be my 4. And then 5, I think I would put
I might have to go tag ladder match at 5. The R-Truth moment is fun. That was exciting. I'm with you. I think I just flipped 2 around that you had. But I'm with you on those being the top 5 matches. But I think it's easy to interchange at 5. Becky and Rhea was good. Gunther and Sammy was good.
Yeah.
It was so much.
The Bayley match had potential, but that botched ending really messed with me, man.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of my one downfall. But before we get out, is I think Damage Control was kind of booked into a grave. Like, they get kind of squashed, and then to not be a part of that main event or to be part of the other match, I thought that Bayley was going to kind of have to overcome the same odds that Cody would. And maybe that's the reason they didn't do it, was because it's just too many parallels.
Sure.
But that has been another episode of the Casual Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You can cut any clip from the show you'd like, post it on any social media. As always, I am the Notorious NerdyD. That is Milwaukee Mike, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Better bring it if we debating going toe to toe. No holding back, I'm speaking the facts. Let me introduce you to the dopest show. NerdyD and Milwaukee Mike, bringing the energy. If you a fan of wrestling and especially WWE, this is the Casual Wrestling Show. Casual Wrestling Show.